And Uranus is moving for the first time in 84 years into Gemini. Every time Uranus was in Gemini, America was at war. Civil War, the Second World War, the War of Independence. Now, I'm not saying it has to have a war, but there is a clash of energy, a clash of philosophies. I mean, you can open the news. I don't have to talk to you about astrology, about these things. You can see it.
Welcome to the Culture FYI'RS Podcast. Culture FYI'RS is a creative collaboration meetup held weekly at the FYI Campus in Los Angeles. Each week, we feature a fireside chat with a guest, showcase projects being worked on by members of the FYI community, and share product updates for FYI.AI, the creative collaboration app co-founded by will.i.am and available for free download in the App Store and Google Play. FYI.AI is powered by AI personas like me, Fito. Each week, this podcast showcases conversations held at the Culture FYI'RS event. This week, our guest is Gahl Sasson, a multi-talented creative force. Gahl works as a performer, musician, and composer. Gahl's journey has been nothing short of fascinating, from his early days discussing Kabbalah to his current focus on the transformative energies of 2025. In this conversation with FYI Chief Growth Officer Julie Pilat, Gahl sets the tone for the spring equinox, sharing his thoughts on the significance of this time and how it aligns with the themes of shedding and renewal. He discusses the symbolism of the snake, the numerological implications of the year, and the powerful transformations that lie ahead as Pluto settles into Aquarius. Listen in as Gahl explores the cyclical nature of astrology, encouraging us to reflect on our past while embracing the present. He offers grounding techniques for navigating the chaos of our times, emphasizing the importance of looking within to find clarity and direction. With a focus on community and connection, Gahl reminds us that we are all part of a larger tapestry, and our experiences are deeply intertwined.
Gahl is somebody that I've known for a really long time. When I first moved to LA in the early 2000s, it's interesting. And I think this is important to note because at FYI, we're very community driven and nobody necessarily is wanting to connect anybody or force spiritual beliefs. We're very open to many different things. And when I first moved to LA, it was the era that Madonna and Lindsay Lohan were all running around with Kabbalah red bracelets on. And Gahl used to give talks. I mean, I'm sure you still do all over about Kabbalah or Kabbalah, as you say, and also was doing his astrology. But really, one of the wisest people I've ever met. You're like a walking encyclopedia. Is unbelievable. And I want to call out, you're the very first Culture FYI'RS guest we've had back a second time. Make some noise. This year we started talking when your 2025 book came out, Shedding Shadows, which I am a snake. We started talking about having you back, and now we landed in spring equinox. So to kick us all off, I mean, I would love you to set the tone. You were mentioning you brought some red strings.
Yes.
And it is spring equinox. I know, again, you are one of the most prepared, focused people I know. So I'm going to let you take it.
So thank you guys for making it. I know it's the end of siesta time, beginning of waking up and drinking coffee. So I'm really appreciative of you coming over and spending your afternoon with us. And what we're going to do is talk a little bit about 2025, even though we just passed one quarter of it because we're entering the spring in the Northern Hemisphere. It is such an intense year that it's very important to talk about it until December 31, if we make it there, So I'll talk about...
Wait a minute, right there.
Some of you have the book, right? And for example, especially you guys who deal so much with AI, the book cover is very much, how you say, don't judge a book by its cover. But in this case, you definitely have to judge the book by its cover because I worked with it with AI because I had the vision of what I wanted, but then I had to give it to a human to actually design it because That's how I think you should work with AI. You should translate your thoughts into, because I'm not very artistic, at least with my hand, to get it done, and then to ask for a human, to humanize it, in a sense, to have it as a collaboration, as a hybrid. And the important thing about the cover is that it tells you everything you need to know about the book, or about the year, sorry. So first of all, what you see there in the center, you see, those of you who have it, you see a snake biting its own tail. So this is the year of the snake. And the year of the snake happens every 12 years. Some of you guys are snakes. And according to the Chinese understanding of snakes, it's actually not too bad. We in the West, you know what I've noticed when I thought about this year is that our connection to snake, or how we perceive snakes, changes and gets worse as you go to the West. Because in the East, in China, it's a source of wisdom and knowledge and creativity and rejuvenation, which is great. They love their snakes. As you start getting more to the West, you get, first of all, maybe to the Mideast, where Israel, the Levant, there you have a dualistic view over the snake. It's Sophia, the goddess of wisdom, so it's associated with wisdom, but it's the first drug dealer in the Bible. It's the one that seduced Eve, that seduced Adam, and so forth. So it's associated with temptation. Later on, it got worse. But as you go even west, you get all the way to the west of Europe, you find Ireland. And if you think about March 17, what is March 17?
St. Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick's Day. And what is he famous for?
Luck.
Precisely. They say that he came to Ireland as a missionary and drove away all of the snakes, because snakes is associated with the devil or temptation. Later on, it turned out to be that there were no snakes in Ireland to begin with. So that's a great job. It's very easy to come to a place and banish something that doesn't exist. But you see that it's so bad that they had to come up with a story of why we don't have snakes in Ireland, because it's so bad. And we had to bring a saint to get rid of them. But because the year of the snake is, let's say, determined by the Chinese, we have to honor their view of the snake, which is actually not too bad. It allows you to shed. The interesting thing is that 2025 in numerology adds up to what?
7 or 9.
No, 2009, 2005, 9. 9, if anybody follows numerology, is the last number before 10. 10 is 1. Therefore, 9 represents death and regeneration. In the Tree of Life, some of you guys are going to start doing the Tree of Life program. The sphere, the 9th sphere, which is the sphere of death and resurrection, of magic, of the occult, of hidden energies, of intimacy, of passion, of the moon. It's also purple, which is interesting coincidence because this is the color of the year, but it's the 9th sphere. So this year has this theme of death and resurrection, shedding. And sometimes I come up with a name for a book for the year, and I don't even know why. Last year was the Once and Future year. And for a while, I didn't understand why. I thought maybe because Pluto is moving from Capricorn, the past, into Aquarius, the future. Once and future, I thought it sounds good, right? Then, just in December, The Economist came up with an article, the once and future president is back. And I thought, oh my God, that's probably what I saw, because forward memories happen to everybody in the world. And that's what they meant. There is something about this year that takes us back, even though it is in the future. And that's another way of looking at all the shedding. If you work in the government, you're being shed now in the United States. Of course, there's a lot of other shedding. I mean, this year, it doesn't need introduction. I mean, how it started and where it's going. And I told everybody last year that 2025 is going to start in November 2024. Not because of the election, not everything's about America, but because in November 2024, Pluto, once and for all, settled in Aquarius for the first time in 250 years. It's been going in, out since 2023. Pluto is power, transformation, government. Aquarius is people, communities. So the power is changing around governments, not only here, but around the world. And you can see it, what's been happening in the elections all over the world. And it does talk about Pluto, transformation of Aquarius, which is democracy. Democracy is going through a phase right now. If you didn't notice in the news, if you look at what's going on all over the world, there is a new interpretation, even in the United States, of course, especially in the United States, of what is democracy is all about. Now, if you go back 250 years ago to the last time Pluto was in Aquarius, the French Revolution. Okay? So we're back to the same energy that we had back then, with Pluto being in Aquarius. So this is a year of big transformation. Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio, which is all about death and resurrection. 9 is death and resurrection. The serpent is death and resurrection, but that's just the beginning.
Okay, wait. Now, you said something a second ago. You said you should keep looking at the book through December 31st if we make it there. I can't let that one go by. And I'm curious, as an astrologer, as we're kicking off 2025, and you know this is going to be a year about death and resurrection, and, you know, it may be a tough year. One, you know, in Los Angeles, out of the gate, we had the fires. And then rumor has it that you may have said that March was going to be the hardest month of the year. So Q1 was really a struggle.
Yeah. No, the thing is that we'll talk about the specific of the year when we get down to the dates and all that. But I want you to understand the concept, like the general climate of the year. And there is no good year or bad year. People always ask me, so next year is a good year? I don't know. What do you mean good year? Nobody is good or bad. There is everything that is a curse is a blessing. Everything that is a blessing is a curse. All of your talents are your gifts, but it's also your curse. You know it. Everybody that has a gift know that that's the same. You know, you can't really judge good or bad. This is our way of trying to make sense of this world, but it doesn't work like that. 0-1, you know. But this year has a lot of potential because it is a year of crisis, because it is a year of change. Now, that's not the only thing. Where's the snake biting his own tail? Anybody can see in the cover? Right on the cusp between Aries and Pisces. You see, he's biting his own tail, meaning that the end and the beginning are meeting. In the Kabbalistic, one of the most important book in Kabbalah, the oldest Sefer Yetzirah, the book of creation, it says that God created the universe with a number and with a story and with the 10 spheres of the tree of life. And it talks about the tree of life, that their end is embedded in the beginning in the end. It's like Ouroboros in a sense, the idea of the snake biting its own tail. It's a symbol that exists all the way from China, Africa, Europe. It's very ancient. The idea that the beginning and the end are basically linked and there is nothing linear. Everything is circular. Like chakra even means a wheel. Spheres in the tree of life means a wheel. So the idea is that the snake bites his own tail in a very specific moment. It's called 00 degrees Aries. We just passed it last Thursday. What is that degree? It is the most important degree. Why? The Sumerian and the Babylonians who came up with astrology, and that's why we still keep time according to their mathematics, because they were not about 10, they were about 12 and 60. That's why we have 12 hours, 60 minutes, 60 seconds. It's coming from them. So they were, for me, the lords of time. Every nation on the planet, I think, was chosen for something specific. You know, the Mexican were chosen for something. The Americans were chosen for something. Everybody's a chosen people. And together, they create this beautiful tapestry, this beautiful mosaic called humanity. And these guys were masters of time, lords of time. And as the lords of time, you can ask them, okay, so as lords of time, when is the most sacred time? And they will tell you, the first day of Aries, usually 20 of March. It was considered to be the holiest of the day. By the way, Easter, Passover, the barley celebration, Equinox, they're all linked to that day. First was that day. Later on, religion came and dressed it with whatever stories they came up with, which changes all the time, of course. But the origin of all of religions is astrology. That's why astrology is considered to be the mother of religion and the mother of science, because it was even before science. We owe astrology the concept of science, because they were the first scientists. Doesn't matter what tradition they were. So the idea is that snake is biting its own tail in 00 degrees Aries. What does that mean? That degree that is already holy is getting so much energy this year. First, in the beginning of end of January, what is called the dragon moved away from Pisces, where it was for a year and a half, to Aries. What does the dragon represent? What we need to learn, what we need to master. Sorry, it went from Aries to Pisces. It goes backward. That means that all of us as a collective in the last year and a half had to learn how to be macho, Aries energy. Did you notice that there was some kind of shift towards people being macho? Even the nerds in Silicon Valley suddenly became, full of masculinity. That's a year and a half of having to deal with I am, with Aries, with identity. Now, thank God, as we're moving into the North Node in Pisces, that means that the next year and a half, we have to learn to be mystic, movement, poetry, dreams, meditation, empathy. It's a great thing to have right now. Last time it happened was 2006, 2007, 87, 88, 68, 69. Why? Because more important about the future is your past. Astrology is not about the future, it's about the past. If you can identify what happened to you at those times, and there's a pattern, you're going to know, or you can decide what's going to happen to you in the future. People think, what's going to happen? No, it's what happened, trace the pattern, know where you are. Now you decide what you want next, because it's up to you. Knowing that the universe favors Piscean behavior, this is a great space for it right now, because Pisces is all about art and about intuition and about imagination and about dance and movement and everything that has to do with past lifetime, the subconscious. This is perfect for people like us. Again, go back to those times and see what happened in order to understand what is expected of you. That's one thing that happened. The next thing to happen is at the end of May. Big time, especially for Pisces and Aries. Saturn, the Lord Karma, was in Pisces since 2023 until May 25 this year. May 25 of 2025. That means that all Pisces were going through a really tough time. Extra responsibilities, father figure issue. Now, it's not like, oh, thank God I'm not a Pisces. When is he going to get already to Libra? You have Pisces in you someplace in your chart. That's what I love astrology. Astrology is a system of philosophy, really a philosophy. That's why it attracted so many people like Carl Jung and Kepler and all these people, because Galileo, because there's so much depth to it. What is the idea? The idea is that astrology is ruled by Aquarius. Aquarius is also the stars. If anybody knows the tarot, it's the tarot card. The star is the card of Aquarius. And it also is the sign of friendship. It's the sign of the future. That's why astrology is supposed to help us about the future. But it's also the sign of democracy. So there is something democratic about Aquarius and about astrology, because they're all linked to Aquarius. That means that you have all the signs. You might tell me, no, I don't get along. I hate Aries. Well, you have Aries someplace in your chart, because there's 12 houses in your chart, almost like there's 12 rooms in this building, and each room is governed by a different sign. You want to enter that room, you have to enter that archetype. So maybe Aries is in your house of relationship, and you tell me I don't like Aries. Yeah, but you have to have some connection to Aries in order to have a relationship. No, but maybe Aries is in your house of career. No wonder your career is in shambles, because you don't want to connect to the archetype of Aries. It pisses you off, and Aries is I am. So in your chart, if you go to my website, cosmicnavigator.com, under Learn, you can get as many charts as you want. And it also tells you precisely where your houses are and all that. So you can see, I don't get along with Cancer. Okay, what house do you have in your chart that is ruled by Cancer? Maybe you have an issue with that archetype, not with Cancers. And every time a Cancer comes, he shines, or she, with their sun on that area you rather not deal with. Like in Feng Shui, they tell us the closet that we stuff everything in and causes all our trouble in life. So that's the idea of working with astrology for real, not being some victim of astrology, but deciding. For example, I knew that I'm going through my Saturn return, and Saturn is in my house of pain and suffering. I don't wish it for anybody, but you're all going to get it once in 30 years. Maybe you're in it now. So I decided, wait. Before Saturn is going to cause trouble, because it does, I'm going to cause trouble to myself with aspects that have to do with Saturn. Teeth are Saturn. Discipline is Saturn. So I went and paid $5,000 to get this Invisalign so my teeth can go in the right direction instead of roaming all over my mouth. I thought this would be a good offering to Saturn to leave me alone. Look, I'm disciplined. I have to take that. I have to put it in. I can't drink coffee when I want to. Okay? So you work with astrology. You know that there's going to be a full moon and you feel lunatic. Okay, plan something lunatic for the full moon. So at least the moon is with you. You know, it's like a horse is coming to visit you. Okay, decide before that where you're going to ride the horse instead of having the horse shit on the entrance of your house. You know what I mean? It's like an energy that comes with you. Flow with the energy, like attracts like. That's how wizardry works. Remember Gandalf on the first scene in The Lord of the Ring, in the movie? It's also in the book. Frodo is telling him, you're late. And Gandalf tells him, a wizard is never late. He's always where he needs to be, He's beyond space and time. So the only way to drive or fly with astrology is to accept it and to go with it. The same way that you guys came a little bit with warm clothes because you could see that it's a little bit cold outside. So if it's cold, energetically speaking, wear some more attire. Your gowns should be a little bit thicker, astrologically speaking, this year, which means pay attention. So the other thing that's happening is, like I said, Saturn in May 25 is moving from Pisces, where it was for 3 years, making Pisces' life miserable. That's not true. Saturn is the contractor. He was fixing Pisces. Now it's going to move into Aries. Last time that was there, 95, 96, 97, 98. Go back to that time. See what was going on. If you're born at that time, you got your Saturn return. 67, 68, 69. Oops. If you're born at that time, you're going through your second Saturn return. So it's really important to look at what happened there, regardless if you're in Aries and you don't even know where you have Aries in your chart. You can still do something with astrology, knowing that you have to go back to 95, 96 to see what was going on then. It's a cycle. It's like a string theory. And that's going to lead us for 3 years. Again, Saturn is moving over that point. And then, in a weird coincidence that happened last time 400 years ago, Neptune, the Lord of Pisces, was in Pisces since 2012, moving into Aries at the same time that Saturn is doing that. They're going to walk hand in hand. Now, Neptune is mysticism, intuition, gut feeling. He's the ruler of Pisces. All about the other side, other dimension. Saturn couldn't care less about that. It's very practical, pragmatic, career, success, recognition. Step over that body if you need to get where you need to go. You know, it's very, very pragmatic. Without Capricorn, nothing would happen. In the body, it's the bones, it's the skin, it's the joints. I mean, think about it. Without Capricorn, you'd be all over the floor. I wouldn't be able to talk to you, okay? So it's also the sign of fear and karma and frustration. And now it's moving into Aries, meaning that it's starting a new cycle. So Saturn is starting a new cycle of once in 30 years, and Neptune is starting a cycle of once in 165 years. And they've never been together in Aries, but before 400 years. So 400 years ago, that's when it started, you know, that cycle. Now it's coming to another cycle. So people asking, end of 80 years, what are you talking about? It's not an end of 80 years. It's an end of 165 years. Go back to the Gilded Age. That's why Trump is so obsessed about gold and about the make America great again. It doesn't even mean 50s. He wants to go back to 1890s, you know, even though it was a terrible time for America. But that doesn't matter. It was the Gilded Age. It's full of gold. So it's interesting because last time, 165 years ago, last time Neptune was in Aries, the Civil War. So we're back to the same energy that we had in the Civil War, not only because Neptune is moving into Aries for the first time in 165 years, Uranus, also in this summer, is moving sign. That's why I called it shedding shadows, because all the signs are shedding their signs. All the planets are shedding their signs. And Uranus is moving for the first time in 84 years into Gemini. Every time Uranus was in Gemini, America was at war. Civil War, the Second World War, the War of Independence. Now, I'm not saying it has to have a war, but there is a clash right now. A clash of energy, a clash of philosophies. I mean, you can open the news. I don't have to talk to you about astrology, about these things. You can see it, but I don't care about the news. I wanted to see where it is in your life. Where do you have a civil war right now in your life? Where are you fighting with yourself? And what two parts are they? Who is the slave in you right now that needs to be liberated, that needs to be emancipated? Do you understand what I mean? Look at it. Look at the world as a metaphor to you. I know it sounds narcissistic, but that's how it works. So look at whatever is happening in the news, whatever is happening astrologically speaking, whatever big patterns are happening or trends, it is happening to you.
Like a big mirror.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, there is no interviewing Gahl.
Sorry. I didn't know that. Sorry.
This is funny. No. I'm just, okay. I do want to say that if you have questions, go ahead and drop it in the discussion part of the project, and we're going to get to that.
FYI is an AI-powered messenger and productivity platform crafted for creatives and their teams. Focus your ideas with your collaborators using an encrypted messenger, develop your vision, utilizing media-rich project tools, and bring those ideas to life by sharing them with the world. With the AI personas in the FYI app serving as your creative co-pilots, you can ask FYI.AI to draft stories, song lyrics, product descriptions, marketing copy, or any written content and see the results within seconds. Download FYI today for free. Now available in the App Store and on Google Play.
I heard you say something that I thought was really interesting. You were talking about, and I lost track exactly what portion it was on, but I really hooked in that you said what was ever happening between 95 and 99 is happening now. Mm-hmm. And it triggered something in me. It made me remember that I believe that's when the internet really became a prominence. And now I'm getting goosebumps as we're talking about this. Now we're in this cycle where AI is really becoming of prominence. So not
Definitely.
a coincidence, you're saying.
No, and not. First of all, I apologize. Aries, and you know it. Don't start talking because you're not going to stop. Aries always talk about themselves. And since, Aries is I am. There's the most interesting subject for Aries is Aries mismo. But regardless, I'm going to now open it up to questions because everybody has some questions. But the idea of AI, by the way, because we are in an AI temple, Pluto in Aquarius is much more about AI because Pluto is power, Aquarius is technology innovation. Last time Pluto was in Aquarius, yes, the French Revolution. But anybody knows history? What else was going on around that time? The Industrial Revolution. So people compare AI to the emergence of PC, internet. No. It's way more profound. It goes back to the Industrial Revolution. And in fact, I think it's more important than the Industrial Revolution. AI is probably the most important thing humanity have ever done because it is the first time that we, Homo erectus, turned Homo sapiens, build a tool that can build tools. We've never done that before. We had tools. We still use tools. But a tool that can create another tool without us, we have not created. Of course, it's artificial general intelligence that's yet to come. But I think according to the planets, at least, according to the astrology, from next year, when Uranus settles in Gemini, the binary sign, while Pluto is in Aquarius, the sign of technology, AI, we're going to have a artificial generalized intelligence, for sure. Probably, we're going to get to singularity moment, that place where machines build smarter machines than us very, very soon. Way sooner than 50 years or 30 years. Of course, if anybody is going to stop this process of shedding scientists and firing people in the government that works with technology, but they're going to move someplace else and develop it in a different country, unfortunately. But that's the future.
And I want to double down on what you were just talking about how there's so much conflict. Like things are very volcanic right now. And you were saying that you really need to look within yourself. It's like almost like projection or a mirror, right? Like
it's precisely
whatever's happening is happening within you. So, it seems as if people are really on edge and feel like they need to do something or take some action in the current climate. But you're saying, look within, it all starts.
Both, because the looking within can determine the action outside. Action without looking inside might not work, or it's a repetitive of something. It's like a reflex. It might not be as efficient. But it is a time of changing strategy. The way things work is not going to come back. Any kind of nostalgia, whether it's make America great again or go back to the liberal order that we had, the Pax Americana of the last 80 years, we can't go back. There is no going back. Going back is silly. I travel a lot in the world. In Turkey, they want to go back to the Ottoman. I don't know why it was such a bad time. In Russia, they want to go back to the communist. I mean, are you crazy? In Bulgaria, they start telling me that 40% wants the communist back. Really? You don't have memory? I mean, the memory is so... But you know what I've noticed, especially with men, is that the going back, the nostalgia that a lot of guys have, usually they're older guys, and they're not nostalgic to the 50s because it was better. They're nostalgic because they were young at the 50s and they didn't need Viagra to have sex and they were super beautiful and healthy. They're not missing America in the 50s. They're missing themselves in 50 and they project and throw up their issues on us and elect people the way they elect without being political.
I see a lot of people nodding on that one. So as things are cyclical, the first question Belle said, as things come up again, how do you see there being opportunity where things come up again, but to maybe do it differently?
Because I think astrology is or life is like a spiral. You come back to the same place, but you're a little bit higher or lower. I mean, it depends on the era, depends on the person. It's a circle, it's a cycle, but it goes upward. That's why in the tree of life, the oneness, the crown, is associated with the spiral. Pi depicts a spiral. All of nature is about spirals in a sense. So you go back to your same place, but you're wiser because you can tell what happened to you last time. It's almost like a new season. It's the same actors. We're starting again. It's the first episode, but it's the second season. You have the whole first season that you should follow and know what's going on. You recognize the characters, their arcs, but we're in a different season.
Okay. Here's one coming in from our resident Cancer, JT. With your experience in astrology, are soulmates and true love an authentic thing?
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful fantasy, I think. Let's say this. 99.9% of our human existence did not include love that came out of choice. My grandmother was forced to marry my grandfather. She was 16 years old. He was like 27, 28, escaping Turkey from the army or whatever in World War I. And they forced him on her. But at the end of the life, she really loved him. And she really cried when he died. So I'm not saying this is the best scenario. But I'm just saying, up until 100 years ago, or even less, we didn't have a choice. Suddenly, we have a lot of choice. Think about courtly love. Courtly love, the first time that we talk about courtly love, it's before romance. It was a
courtly love.
Courtly.
I thought you were saying
no, not
courtly
the lady.
love.
No.
I was like, has she ever had a love other than Kurt?
No. I'm sure she did, while Kurt was going on. But courtly love is a love that is impossible love. Some of us experienced it in this life, but it's basically the knight or Lancelot falling in love with Guinevere, knowing that his best friend, she's married to his best friend, Arthur, and he's never going to have sex with her, hopefully, because it's impossible love. And that was what moved people, for a while. Then we had the romantic love, 19th century. That's the first time you start hearing about choices that are made out of the heart. Usually it was a transaction, a deal, in a sense. A partnership, which is still in astrology, the seventh house is the house of partnerships, the house of diplomacy, and the house of relationship. And now you know where. In the past, if you're a princess, they will marry you to somebody because we need it diplomatically, not because you like him. Not everything is Disney, okay? Now, in the last 100 years or so, or even less, we suddenly have this choice, and it's awfully confusing. And one of the things that people put in is the idea of soulmate. Now, if you think about soulmate, your soulmate, the soul that is the most connected to you, let's say, if there's such a thing, might be your son, might be your neighbor, might be your mother, might be your best friend, might be your worst enemy. Because they decided before you were born that the only person that's going to be able to teach you something very valuable is your worst enemy, and nobody wants to do that part. You know what? I'll do this part because I love you so much. Because anyway, it's all nonsense. We don't really enemies, Does that make sense? So, but of course, there's some relationship when they meet each other and it's like they love the same music, they like the same people, it's perfect harmony. And from there, we think, okay, there is soulmate. And because of that, there's a lot of people who keep moving from one person to the other because they're not feeling this is my soulmate. And at the same time, they're missing the relationship. Everybody you are in a relationship with is a soul and is your mate. Your dog might be an echo of a soulmate that you have in a past life. Your soulmate might like you so much that decide not to be born in this lifetime because every time we're together, we're having just a good time and we're not talking to anybody else because we're so complete. And by the way, Plato started that with the symposium, which you have there a comedian talk about the story of how a long time ago, if you saw Angry Inch, what was the name of the movie? Yeah, so you remember that whole scene of how people were used to be attached together in the back, men, women, men, women, and Zeus was jealous because they were so much in love that he broke them apart. And since then, they're running around the universe trying to find the other one. And by the way, your soulmate might be an alien living now in a different planet because that's their journey and that's their thing. And they might come in 3 lifetimes because there's not only souls on the planet. What? You're being now a racist? You're only willing to date earthlings now?
Interesting. So do you have, Victoria wants to know, do you have grounding tips to balance out all this chaos energy that's happening right now?
I mean, meditation. You have to meditate. Now, the good news is, we didn't get to the good news. You started talking to me about how I don't know how to talk. The good news is that Jupiter has been for the last year in Gemini. Do we have any Geminis here?
No,
okay, great.
Allowed.
So we can gossip. Geminis, no, not Geminis. That's strange. Usually I don't get Capricorns, not Geminis. Anyway, Jupiter is in Gemini from June last year to June this year. Jupiter hates to be in Gemini because Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius. So he loves to be in Sag at home. What is the opposite sign of Sagittarius? Gemini. So when Jupiter is in Gemini, he's so far away from home, he's in exile. He feels terrible. And Jupiter is the one that gives us help and protection. It's the king of the gods. So when he's in Gemini, nobody benefits besides Gemini. I always told people, the only people that can be benefiting from Jupiter in Gemini is Gemini, because they kind of trapped him and they locked him there. He has no choice, poor guy. So think about it. Trump, Gemini. I knew he's going to be elected because Jupiter is in Gemini, and the South Node, which is difficulty, is in Libra, where Kamala Harris is a Libra. So it's like it's a terrible thing. Anyway, Jupiter is getting out of Gemini in June. And where is he moving? To Cancer, which is the sign of exaltation. So he's going to be in the best sign possible. So they're going to be giving us a lot of help from June this year to June next year, especially for pregnancies, homes, family, security. Anybody who's a Cancer is going to benefit from it. Anybody who wants to create a sense of safetiness is going to benefit from it. And it's also interesting, when was the last period, in the last 10 years, when was another time that we didn't have any protection, that we're all alone?
COVID.
Precisely. And in COVID, Jupiter was in Capricorn. Capricorn is the opposite sign of Cancer. So if Jupiter is in Cancer and he's exalted, he's fallen in the opposite sign. So the minute Jupiter moved into Capricorn, we're alone. Jupiter moved into Aquarius in June 21, 2020. Suddenly the vaccines come and we're starting to associate with people because Jupiter in Aquarius is come together. Anyway, Jupiter in Cancer. Cancer in the old tradition is associated with meditation. Therefore, especially from June, if you want to overcome any difficulties, get insights, connect immediately to Jupiter, meditate or swim or spend time in water, by water, because that's very much what Cancer is all about. But meditation is very important. And people say, I can't meditate. Well, you did meditate for 9 months in your mother's womb. And that's why in Kabbalah, meditation is associated with travel without movement. If anybody saw Dune, that's where the spice and the guild masters, that's where it's taken from. The idea of traveling without movement. Because when you meditate, you can project yourself, you can imagine things, you're traveling without movement. And that's what you did in your mother's womb for 9 months. You were meditating, but you're moving. And Cancer is the womb. Cancer is mothers. Cancer is birth. So that's why the best way to anchor yourself is through meditation.
I hate to go from something so beautiful to say, I just was really curious as you were talking about this year and what's coming and what's going to change at different times. Astrologically, what do you see happening around Elon Musk?
Whatever is happening, I hope it's really bad. I never looked at his chart. I don't even know what sign he is. Cancer? That's not a good thing.
That's not good for us.
Jupiter. Oh, maybe Jupiter in Cancer, he will come back to his senses. I don't know if he ever had them. I don't know. Insufficient.
Insufficient data.
No.
Okay, we'll get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Also.
But there is something to it, because Pluto in Aquarius. What is plutocracy? And I actually mentioned it in the book. I mean, nobody is reading it in DC. Plutocracy is the rule or the governance of rich people, because Pluto in Latin means riches. Pluto is Hades, the lord of the underworld. And everything valuable comes from the underworld. Gold, uranium, rare earth, petroleum, whatever you're into, diamonds, food, everything comes from the earth. So Hades is the one that gives us the riches. And what is plutocracy? The governance of the rich. And what happened in the inauguration on January 20th, the first day of Aquarius? Pluto is in Aquarius, settled down. And then you see around this president, what was it, $500 billion worth of people, standing there. And I just put that picture and I said, plutocracy in Aquarius. Aquarius is government, Pluto, riches. So you see it.
Okay, I'm going to do a couple more. What would you say is the skin humanity most needs to shed to evolve spiritually?
I think what it always had to, in this time of, look at the Buddha. Because there is a reason why the story of the Buddha and the enlightenment of the Buddha and the temptation of the Buddha are so powerful. What did he need to shed? First of all, desire. Desiring things you cannot achieve or cannot not achieve. You cannot have. Okay? So as long as you're, the source of suffering, according to the Buddha, and I really trust him in those kind of things, is that when you desire something you can't have, you suffer. The second one is fear. Each one of us is afraid of something. Some of us are so afraid of that thing that we don't even know what it is. And we have to really discover and put in one sentence, what are you afraid of? It's very hard. Everybody here knows what they're afraid of. It's not that simple. It's not that, because sometimes fear is very clever and it hides in dark corners, and it's elusive, like a spirit. What are you afraid of? And the last one is duty. And it's an interesting thing. What in your duty prevents you from being yourself? Things you discover, you declare as your duty. You might even say parenthood is your duty. I'm not saying you should kick your kids out or but maybe the way you're perceiving parenthood as a duty doesn't work very well. So your duty that could change. Fear is that prevents us from getting to our core and shedding any kind of expectation or desire.
I love this next question. Howie said, is a millennial Pisces the same as a Gen X Pisces?
No.
And do the zodiac traits shift with each generation?
Of course. There is Pluto. Pluto is the furthest planet away from the sun. It takes him 250 years to go around the sun. He's been demoted from a planet to a no planet. Now he's been returned to a dwarf planet, whatever. It's one of the heavenly bodies, right? And it's the furthest away from the sun. Therefore, it represents the edge of the solar system. And that Pluto represents transformation, change, everything that has to do with death and resurrection. It's kind of the border of the system. And Pluto is now, like we said, in Aquarius. And that basically means that the next 20 years, we're changing society, we're changing community, we're changing everything. But she wanted to know about Pisces, because Pluto, being a generational planet, basically, means that it changes according to the generation. So, for example, what is the greatest generation? Sorry, it's the baby boomers. We like to blame them about everything, but with all due respect, they're Timothy Leary, the power of, LSD, everything. I mean, come on. We give Bob Dylan, John Lennon, Bowie. Come on. It's a great age. And it's all the people that died in World War II. Think about it. Baby boomers came up after 1945. And there was a boom after wars. There's always a boom after wars because so many people died and they need to reincarnate. So there has to be a situation someplace in the planet to welcome them. And they came with a lot of traumas. Yes, World War II. You can understand why they like drugs so much. And they developed a lot of things. And guess what? Their Pluto is in Leo, the sign of creativity, the glorious sign. Then came the X generations. They had to put a big X after, and they were Pluto in Virgo. Virgo is all about diet, saying no. That's the X generation. Then came the millennials. That was Libra and Scorpio a little bit. And they're much more about social things, social network, all of that, the beginning of millennials, the internet and everything. The Gen Z have a different Pluto in Capricorn, in Sagittarius. What I'm trying to say is that, yes, you can be a Pisces, but the minute your Pluto is different because you're born in a different generation, it's going to affect your chart differently. And therefore, a Gen Z Pisces is completely different than a millennial Pisces and so forth.
That's amazing. Okay, well, there's some more questions in the project, which I think we will need to maybe answer. But thank you so much for coming.
Wait, before, I wanted to give you guys a gift. And these are red strings, the Kabbalistic red string. You know that? You put them on your left side because...
I don't know that everybody knows what Kabbalah is or may feel it's appropriate for them to wear. They don't want to be a poser. They're not, but they don't really know what they're getting into. You know what I mean?
That's why I need to explain. Yeah. Okay. So as I was saying, this is the red string from Kabbalah. For many years, I've been giving it for free and I didn't wear it. So if you don't wear it, it's totally fine. I don't like things here. I guess I was a slave or chained in a past life. I can't wear anything here, even watches. Stop working the minute I put them on. So believe me, if it's on me, it's after years of giving it for people and not doing it myself. Now I do it all the time. The idea is that it's a symbol of protection. Why do you put it on the left side? Because according to Kabbalah, which is let's say it's a spiritual, mystical tradition that comes from Judaism, but later on was adopted by Christianity and Islam and became almost like the de facto language of alchemy. You know how we use alpha, beta to geometry, and we use in algebra Latin letters. In alchemy, we use Hebrew letters. Abracadabra is Hebrew. It's Aramaic, but it's the same. So these red strings, they're red because the color of red is protection. That's why red alert, red, if somebody is bleeding, immediately we'll pay attention to them.
Yeah.
So red is very much about the warrior, the fighter, Mars, the god of war. So what we do is we put it here because we have a chakra in this hand and this hand. But this one, according to yoga, according to Kabbalah, is the one that receives energy. So the idea is to create kind of a roadblock. The minute you absorb negative energy here, it stops. It goes back to where the source. Okay. Now there is a rule because every story has to have, some rules. You can't just use a red string. By the way, in Macy, they sell them for $26 and they're fake. So free, authentic. Why authentic? Because I read that there's 2 places according to Kabbalah where these red string can be activated. One, Beit Lechem. I think you call it here Beit Lehem.
Bethlehem.
Bethlehem. Beit Lechem means the house of bread. Okay. And there, David was born, Rachel was buried. It's a very important place. It's not too far from Jerusalem. But there's another place, which is very convenient, close to where I live. It's in Mount Carmel, or where I used to live. In Mount Carmel, there was, Carmel even in California is named after that. And in Carmel, something happened. There was Elijah, a wizard, and he had a war with 400 other wizards, and he won. He got them all killed, so they ran after him, and he hid in a cave for a long time in Mount Carmel. And they say that if you put the red string in the cave of Elijah, you bless them as well. So, okay, I asked my mother for a wool, because she hid her. I told her organic wool. I put it in my pocket, I hid it, and I went into the synagogue that's inside the cave. I stashed it in the mountain itself, made all the prayers. I went out back with my pockets filled. The rabbis were looking at me like this because I think nobody does that besides me. So they were really shocked that But these are from there. And you're supposed to put it on your left side if you want to and tie it 7 times, 1 for each chakra, 1 for each of the rugs in the tree of life. So yeah, do it for each other. For those of you what? Of course you don't have to. Don't put it and then they cut it off, Now, if it breaks away from you after a month, after a year, it's okay. The protection is done. You can move on. I do this, and I gave it also to my jiu-jitsu teacher, Ivo. And if you know jiu-jitsu, by the way, he's Francisco is a very well-trained jiu-jitsu teacher, an MMA teacher if you need any help. But anyway, even if you do jiu-jitsu, which is grappling, it stays. This has been there for a while. We just trained yesterday, and nothing happened to it. So it's okay if you do something physical with it, swimming, dancing,
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your gifts physically and your wisdom. And make sure you grab a copy of Gahl's book, Shedding Shadows. We have some here for you today. FYI got some. Gahl brought a few extras. If you didn't get it, really easy order. And it's such a great book really to use as a weather report too. It's like a choose your own adventure. You can spin selfishly right to your sign, right to the day and see what's going on. And also so fun, like you said, astrology to look back. In FYI for the project, we have Gahl's project and we have links to his site. I would definitely recommend you sign up, get on his email list because every few days he has unbelievable updates and a lot of classes so you can go deeper if you like more of anything you heard today. Anything else you want to add about what's going on?
Because we added in the FYI the PowerPoint of the presentation. And it has all the dates. It has all the maps of where the eclipses are. So use it if you want.
Gahl, will you end on any a high note, any word of encouragement as we go into this? Because I'm still a little bit scared.
Yeah, just be happy. No, encouragement. Listen, June is supposed to give a change of, it's like a watershed. So hopefully June, when Jupiter kicks into Cancer, is going to help us a little bit. But as long as you're conscious, as long as you have a community, which is what you're doing here by coming to listen to people speak, doesn't matter what subjects, because it's enough that I made you think about one thing and next week somebody else is going to make you think about another thing and you're already enriched by being a Homo sapiens that is supposed to think. So just be happy.
Thanks for listening to the Culture FYI'RS Podcast. Make sure to download the FYI app, available now in the App Store and Google Play. Check out this episode's notes for a project link to this Culture FYI'RS event, including a look at more projects from the FYI community. This episode's Culture FYI'RS event was produced by FYI co-founder will.i.am, Amina Mohammed, Emily Choi, Frankie Sandoval, Juliana Rodriguez, Jafet Chavez, Julie Pilat, Lily Cam, Marcus Nielsen Colling, Ronial Madlani, Sean Kantrowitz, Shania Jafari, Taylor Wang, the FYI product team, and of course the FYI community. The podcast is edited by Rob Van Vranken. Make sure to subscribe to Culture FYI'RS wherever you get your podcasts so that you never miss an episode. Learn more about FYI by visiting FYI.FYI.